Alright, so here we are. Russia's largest exports, crude petroleum and refined. As we all know, they lost their status as the world's largest producer and exporter of oil and natural gas. They lost their spot to the United States. I believe Saudi Arabia is bigger than Russia on oil. Um, it's not doing good since they lost their spot. And the thing is, if they want to control the price, like say, they see that we're number one because we're fracking our asses off, and they want to drop the price to affect us, they're handing over the market. You can see they're trying to cut back a little bit to bring the price down so we don't profit as large, but they can only do that so much because once we take over their market share, they're not going to get it back. And they don't want to just the more of the market we take, the more we control the price. So they're pretty much checkmated or stalemated on both oil and natural gas. Once we get enough liquefied natural gas terminals in Europe, and we get a Turkmenistan pipeline into Georgia, and and if we get one from Kazakhstan too, with Azerbaijan, Turkmenistan, and maybe even a little bit of Kazakhstan or any of those Central Asian countries, they have just about as much natural gas as Russia, and that will be the alternative for Europe. I see that coming in 10 to 15 years, and Russia completely left out of the European market sometime in the future. Not really sure when, but that's definitely on the agenda now that the U.S. has taken over both the oil and the natural gas market. But so they're trending downwards for crude and natural gas. They're doing all right in coal, but with iron and steel, they've kind of flatlined. They're doing okay. They're a pretty resource-rich country, but when you look at aluminum, Russia, these lines, it's, let me show you guys. It's 2010, 2011. You see the colors. It starts from bottom to the top. Russia has had that thing keeps popping up. Has had a steady decline from 2010, 2011, all the way to 2017. They have been declining, and that's just humiliating. That's one of their largest exports. And so is gold. Gold's in the top 10. They've kind of flatlined. They've been the same with diamonds. But look at their gold. Their gold has stagnated. Since 2006, they've always been trending up. Bang, 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 bang. And then come 2014, they've been flatlined for 5 years. Barely going anywhere. Which isn't good because their expenses are going up. They picked up the Syria war, the East Ukraine war. They picked up Crimea, which they can't even afford the pension increases. The occupation of Georgia. Oil has dropped. They have to have at least $70 to $75 a barrel to balance their budgets. So they're screwed there. They're just racking up massive deficits. It's insane for Russia. And they're increasing their defense spending. Now, what caused the Soviet Union to collapse? They started spending a lot on defense, opening these large programs. They had millions of soldiers, thousands of jets, and then the price of oil tanked. I see that, reoccurring right now. Another one of their big exports that they control the world market for, palladium, they're not growing. As you can see, from 2012, look at Russia. They produce less now in 2017 and 2018 and also 2019 than they did in 2012 when they were doing really well. It's insane. And then you look at wheat, which is one of their biggest exports. Look at it from 1987 here. Let me go to where we are. They're at negative 15.76%. That is just off the wall. They are nosediving in wheat production. The ruble, I remember back in I can't remember if it was 2011 or what, but man, you could get 20 rubles or something, 25 rubles for $1. And I remember being in Russia in 2016 and I was getting 80 rubles per dollar. So in, July, June, 33 rubles per dollar. And then now, look, today, 66. It's still double the ruble. Lost half of its value and it still cannot recover. The economy is doing so bad. There's no trend soon or any forces on the market that would drive oil up unless there was a major war with Iran. But I doubt that's going to happen. And with the U.S. just producing more and more and more every year, not only have we taken the number one spot and we took our ban off exports, but the gap between us and the next largest exporter is just getting larger and larger and larger. It's amazing. It is so bad in Russia. Their economy is so screwed with, Putin just raised the age for pensions by 5 years, and most people don't even live to age 65. I think their life expectancy, I remember when it was 58 years old for men. I think they're 60 now or so, but most of them can't get a pension until they're 65, and it's an embarrassing pension that no human being can live off of. That's why you normally see grandparents still staying with their kids, and then they'll have one of their grandkids at home. It takes that many people to work to live in Russia. They are not living the life that you see on YouTube in Moscow and St. Petersburg and, in Rostov-on-Don or Krasnodar. It's not like that. Like all those major metropolitan areas and the ones that are on the coast by Europe, most of Russians live in abject African status poverty. It's bad. Kazakhstan has a higher GDP per capita than Russia. Figuratively speaking, less people in Sri Lanka live in poverty or below the poverty line than in Russia. Most people don't know that. When you compare Russia, a $1.2 to $1.5 trillion economy to other economies that size, like Spain and Italy, they have the same amount of GDP virtually, but a dramatic difference in lifestyle, life expectancy, ownership of the citizens, like the average net worth, the average income or salary. It's just so dramatically different. You couldn't believe that they had the same GDP. But the wealth gap in Russia is tremendous, and I estimate that at least $1 to $1.5 trillion of Russia's wealth is overseas, in the possession of oligarchs in the top, 1,000 to 10,000 people. Because Russia has the major oligarch class, and they also have these little mini junior regional oligarchs that, they're in the circle of the mayor and the governor, and they run all the trains and transportation. Like they're a bureaucrat, and they have a lot of police officers and FSB members in their family. They're not billionaires, but they do make millions. They own lots of local stores. They got to where they were through their political power and their connections, or I call them the little regional junior oligarchs. But the future is so gloomy in Russia. Newest poll, February 6, 2019. This is just, about a month ago. More than 40% of Russia's youth want to leave Russia. Now, what's going to bring Russia out of their shitty situation? They can't subsidize any of their major exports anymore because oil doesn't even break even for them, and it's trending downward. And they no longer have the number one spot for exporting on both natural gas and oil. So they would have to start inventing things, but no one's lining up to buy the next Russian cell phone or the next Russian car, the next Russian computer software system. They have nothing going on for them in technology. And all the Russians who could help them, who have, software engineering degrees, who, have doctorate degrees, who could, make a medical breakthrough in biomedical engineering or come up with something that could bring major money to Russia or open up a whole new market. They're smart. They're talented. They have a brain. They left Russia or they're on their way out the door into the West. They have no future there. They know if they ever make money there, they will be extorted into oblivion, and they will not have a future unless they, pretty much let the state have a bunch of compromat and, a bunch of material that they can hold over their head to threaten them and to control them. And they've already had little tastes of freedom, and they're not going to risk there. Like, if a kid, his whole life, he did his 2 years as a conscript when he turned 18, and then he, saved up his whole life working, scrubbing floors, and like somehow got a scholarship and went to dental school. You think he's going to be a dentist in Russia where he's going to make no money? Fuck no. He's going to go move to Norway, or he's going to move to Canada where he can make a lot of money. But yeah, it's almost. I've been watching the youth polls who want to leave for probably 4 or 5 years now, and it goes up every year. I remember back when they passed one, and it was 10%, or it was like 9%, and they were saying, "Oh my gosh, almost 1 out of every 10 young Russians want to leave," and now it's up to 40% because they know they're screwed, and they know they have no future with Putin in office or anyone who thinks like Putin in office. And they know he's going to be there forever. When his 4th term is up, he's just going to mend the Constitution like Xi Jinping did and stay there forever because he's going to get killed or thrown in prison if he relinquishes his position of power. He's created way too many enemies. But I had to do this because there might be another collapse when Putin is doing his transition, whether he dies or he gives it up to another successor, which I doubt he will. But whenever Putin is leaving office, I think there's going to be a crisis, and when the power struggle comes to fill his seat, there may be another collapse just because of defense spending, their foreign wars, the trends of oil, and how most of their major exports have either stagnated or they're in decline. I feel so bad for the Russian people, but I don't feel bad for Putin.